Now, the Gilgit Agency was one of the northernmost regions in India, and at that time, on the one side there was Afghanistan, on the other side the Soviet Union, and the third side China. These three regions came together and began to be known as the Gilgit Agency, which was under the control of the British government of India. Lord Mountbatten refused to return either Berar or Quetta to their respective owners, but the only lease, which again is not explained up till now why, that he returned was the Gilgit Wazarat back to the government of Jammu and Kashmir. Major William Brown and Captain Mathison have been speaking to the locals, their own Gilgit scouts, and realized that all of them want to either remain independent or want to join Pakistan. So it's a wait and see game. On the 27th of October 1947, Indian troops land in Srinagar and India occupies parts of Kashmir, and a hot war begins with Pakistan, with direct Pakistan troops participating in it. Night between October 31st and November 1st, 1947, Major William Brown and Captain Mathison institute a coup in Gilgit against the Kashmir government and Brigadier Ghansara Singh. They arrest Brigadier Ghansara Singh, take over the communications, round off all the Hindus, the small number of Hindus there, and declare that the Gilgit Agency has now become a part of Pakistan. Another very interesting accession, which was technically not of a princely state, but of a region, that of the Gilgit Agency, nowadays called Gilgit-Baltistan, how that became a part of Pakistan is narrated in my work. And interestingly enough, it was not the result of anyone from Gilgit or from the region or even from Pakistan. It was the result of the actions of a very young 25-year-old Scotsman, Major William Brown. Now let me, in very few words, narrate how this happened. Now, the Gilgit Agency was one of the northernmost regions in India, and at that time, on the one side there was Afghanistan, on the other side the Soviet Union, and the third side China. So in terms of intelligence purposes, in terms of surveillance, it was a very, very important area. The British had leased parts of the Gilgit Wazarat from Kashmir, from the government of Jammu and Kashmir, on a long lease so that they could maintain their intelligence posts there. Thereafter, a Gilgit Agency was created that was composed of several parts. The first part was Gilgit and the region around it, that was called Gilgit Wazarat. Then there were tribal areas of Koghazar, Yasin, Panial, and a couple of other smaller areas. And then there were these two small princely states called Hunza and Nagar, which of course, as a lot of you recognize, are a part of Pakistan now and a part of Gilgit-Baltistan. So together, these three areas, Hunza and Nagar, small princely states, tribal areas, and the Gilgit Wazarat of the government of Jammu and Kashmir, these three regions came together and began to be known as the Gilgit Agency, which was under the control of the British government of India. Now, very interestingly, whereas Lord Mountbatten did not want to return any of the leased areas that had been leased from princely states back to their original owners, and in 1947 there were three such regions. Earlier I mentioned the three areas that were leased from Kalat by the government of India. Then there is the Gilgit Wazarat that was leased from the government of Jammu and Kashmir, and the third region was Berar, a very rich cotton producing area in central India that was leased from the government of Hyderabad. Lord Mountbatten refused to return either Berar or Quetta to their respective owners, but the only lease, which again is not explained up till now why, that he returned was the Gilgit Wazarat back to the government of Jammu and Kashmir. But in the great confusion that was in the lead up to the independence of India and Pakistan, the whole Gilgit Agency was in fact returned to India rather than just the Gilgit Wazarat. So on the 1st of August 1947, Brigadier Ghansara Singh comes and becomes the new governor of Gilgit Wazarat, but in fact of the old British Agency of India. As Brigadier Ghansara Singh takes over as the new governor of Gilgit, in Gilgit city, he realizes that the only means of power he has are the Gilgit Scouts, a very small paramilitary force in the Gilgit Agency that at that time was being commanded by Major William Brown, a 25-year-old young Scotsman, and his assistant, a 23-year-old Captain Mathison at Chilas. Brigadier Ghansara Singh very quickly also figures out that the large population of Gilgit is almost completely Muslim and therefore do not want to go with even the state of Jammu and Kashmir. While the negotiations continue over the fate of Jammu and Kashmir, and sadly we can't go into the complicated details there, but suffice to say that Kashmir also declares its independence on the 15th of August and does not want to join either India or Pakistan. and signs a standstill agreement with both India and Pakistan. So a stalemate kind of continues. Which side would Kashmir eventually end up being, or it would perhaps even go independent. So a very kind of a cold situation exists in the Gilgit area, where no one knows where eventually Kashmir will end up or where this Gilgit Agency will end up. Meanwhile, Captain Major William Brown and Captain Mathison have been speaking to the locals, their own Gilgit scouts, and realized that all of them want to either remain independent or want to join Pakistan. So it's a wait and see game. Then, of course, things dramatically change. On the 27th of October 1947, Indian troops land in Srinagar and India occupies parts of Kashmir, and a hot war begins with Pakistan, with direct Pakistan troops participating in it. This situation really troubles people in Kashmir in Gilgit, because under no circumstances they want to become a part of the Indian Union with its Hindu majority. They really want to join Pakistan. So what happens is perhaps from a movie scene, which in a dramatic show of events in the night between October 31st and November 1st, 1947, Major William Brown and Captain Mathison institute a coup in Gilgit against the Kashmir government and Brigadier Ghansara Singh. They arrest Brigadier Ghansara Singh, take over the communications, round off all the Hindus, the small number of Hindus there, and declare that the Gilgit Agency has now become a part of Pakistan. The next day, they send a telegram to the Premier of the Northwest Frontier Province and the government of Pakistan, saying that we have now taken over the government of Gilgit Agency, and now Pakistan should send some representative there to take formal control. This creates a very bizarre and odd kind of a situation where a white military officer has put together a revolution that has taken over a very strategic part of Jammu and Kashmir and the adjoining tribal areas and the small states of Hunza and Nagar, and declared them for Pakistan. Pakistan, of course, did not expect this, was unprepared for this, and it took them 2 weeks up till the 16th of November 1947 to send Mr. Aslam Khan to become the new political agent of this area. As it becomes clear that the state of Jammu and Kashmir is going to, by one way or another, form a part of the Union of India, the tension in the Gilgit agencies increase dramatically. People are very unhappy that they are going to become part of a Hindu majority country. And this is the time that Major William and Captain Mathison decide to move. They had already laid the groundwork that in case something happened, they would institute a coup against Brigadier Ghansara Singh and the government of Jammu and Kashmir, and declare that the region has opted for Pakistan. So, in a very dramatic turn of events, very much like a movie scene, in the night between October 31st and November 1st, 1947, they institute a coup against the government of Jammu and Kashmir. They arrest the governor, Brigadier Ghansara Singh. They round off all the Hindus and Sikhs in the bazaars so that they don't get hurt. And then the next morning, they cable the Premier of the Northwest Frontier Province and the government of Pakistan, declaring to them that they have now taken over the reins in Gilgit and have declared it for Pakistan, and that they should send a representative to take over formal control. The government of Pakistan is completely shocked that Britain, in fact, had practically gifted them this very strategic and important territory. And in the whole anxiety and the confusion of the time, it takes them about 2 weeks to send their representative to take over as the political agent of the Gilgit Agency. But in the meanwhile, questions over the fact that a Scotsman had instituted the coup become a very problematic affair, because the British do not want to give an idea to the government of India that their people are helping Pakistan in any way. So the governor of the NWFP at that time, Sir George Cunningham, quickly asks both Major Brown and Captain Mathison to return to Peshawar, and then quickly sends them away so that no idea is given about this central role and central play in declaring Gilgit for Pakistan. So very bizarrely enough, and of course my book gives great detail about this, that this chapter had been largely forgotten in Pakistan. The critical role of these two men had been largely forgotten, and local Gilgiti men, who of course had a small role to play, began to argue that they were the main ones who had brought Gilgit over to Pakistan and had instituted the coup. But of course, historical texts and historical evidence shows that it was Captain William Brown who really led Gilgit's move towards Pakistan, and in fact persuaded the rulers of the small princely states of Hunza and Nagar to also sign over to Pakistan. By the middle of 1948, you now have a full Pakistan, full Western Pakistan, composed of all these princely states, from Kalat to Bahawalpur to Khairpur, to Swat, Chitral, the whole Gilgit Agency, and the small states of Hunza and Nagar with it. And that is how the princely states become a very, very important part of the actual putting together of Pakistan as a country.